French actor Gérard Depardieu has been found guilty of sexual assault. This after prosecutors asked that he be handed an 18-month suspended jail sentence and €20,000 fine. The movie star is accused of groping two women on a film set in 2021, allegations that he has denied throughout the trial. The prosecutor, though, also argues that he should undergo psychological treatment and be added to France's sex offender registry, considering the lack of remorse that he showed during this trial. We're going to talk more about this with Annette Young, the host of the 51% on France 24. Annette, was still waiting for any more information to come in. He's been convicted of sexual assault. How will this verdict be received here in France?
Just to clarify something, he's been convicted of sexual assault of one of the two women who have accused him of such. We're now hearing from the judge, and he's slowly making his way through that judgment too, where, like with the first woman, he's saying the second woman again effectively remained constant and consistent in her testimony, which is what he had said about the first woman, who's known as Amélie, a 54-year-old set dresser, pointing out the consistencies in her testimony versus the inconsistencies in Gérard Depardieu's testimony. Now, again, just to remind viewers, he's been accused of improper behaviour with around 20 women, but only this case so far has come to court. It relates to charges of sexual assault during the filming back in 2021 of the French film Les Volets Verts, The Green Shutters, by director Jean Becker. The plaintiffs are a set dresser, as I just mentioned, who's known as Amélie, who's 54, and a 34-year-old assistant director. Now, the actor one thing he did say is he denied that he was a sexual predator, that he did not carry out any form of sexual assault as such. He also at this time was meant to be filming with the very notable French actress Fanny Ardant in the Portuguese island territory of Azores, which gives you a sense of the difference in generations in the way in which people view his behaviour, because both Fanny Ardant and Brigitte Bardot have come out in his defence. Having said that, we've already heard from feminist groups here in France when they heard that the public prosecutor was calling for an 18-month suspended sentence, that itself was way too light as far as they were concerned, given the gravity of what he'd been accused of. But I would point out it does show that there is indeed a shift in this country, that the attitudes towards sexual assault, and more importantly, the victims of sexual assault, has certainly moved in favour of women who have had the courage to come forward.
Well, what about in the French film industry then? I mean, this verdict coincides with the opening of the Cannes Film Festival. Do you think there have been substantial changes in the French film industry post-Me Too?
I would say not as much as they should be. And certainly many are still arguing within the sector that there's a lot of work to be done. Last year, as a result of the French actress Judith Godrèche making a number of accusations towards two film directors, there was, as a result, a parliamentary inquiry in which 140 people came forward and gave evidence about sexism, misogyny and sexual assault in the world of cinema. And as the inquiry found, there is indeed a real problem. The fact of the matter is, though, it's a reflection of French culture. And coming back to this sort of generational shift, I'm sorry to keep harping on this, but I think it's really important for people outside of France to understand what sort of revolution this country has gone through in the last 20 or 25 years. And I would argue that there is a distinct difference of attitude between people aged 45 and above and 45 and under as to how they view sexual assault. And I think, in addition, we've seen now number of famous people such as Adele Hanel coming forward and talking about abuse and sexism and misogyny and discrimination and so on in the world of French cinema. But I think last year's case with Giselle Pellicot, the 72-year-old grandmother who went public about the fact that she'd been raped by numerous strangers recruited online by her husband, really did cause a national debate in the way that the Me Too movement never actually provoked back in 2018. And that's where you got everybody talking about the case and the fact that, it wasn't famous men who were being accused, but ordinary individuals who went on to be found guilty, as the French media called it, Monsieur tout le monde. And I think this now reflects back on cases like this, that they've come before the court, and as a result, judges are now looking perhaps with a different perspective. Having said that, the French judiciary would always argue that they're independent and, they are very much followers of the letter of the law, but I do think societal attitudes have shifted substantially, and that's been reflected in this verdict.
All right, Annette, we're just hearing now that the court has also found Gérard Depardieu guilty of sexual assault against that second plaintiff, and that he has been handed an 18-month suspended prison sentence as requested by prosecutors. We're going to get more details soon with our reporter at that courthouse very shortly. Thank you very much for Annette Young for helping us see the wider picture there.